Okay, everyone, so now I'm back with my questions from the TOG January 2022. These are my questions that I've made by reading the TOG articles in preparation for the MRCOG Part 2. So this presentation is going to follow a similar format. So I'll be reading out the question and the next slide will follow with the answer. So if for any reason you wanted longer on the question, then just stop the presentation and think about the answer before you move on to the next slide. I hope you'll find this useful, and if you do find this useful, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you can be notified about any future work. And please leave a comment down below to tell me how useful you have found this video. Okay, so question number 1 is, what is the definition of female sexual dysfunction? So from the TOG articles, what is the definition? So A is that the problem must be present more than 75% of the time for more than 6 months. B, the problem must be present more than 50% of the time for over 12 months. C, the problem must be present over 75% of the time over 3 months. D, the problem must be present over 50% of the time more than 9 months. Or E, the problem must be present greater than 75% of the time for more than 24 months. And the answer is, the problem must be present for more than 75% of the time for more than 6 months. Question number 2. What does the LOFTI acronym used for assessing sexual problems in women stand for? Is it A, listening, observing, feelings, talking, and interpreting? Is it B, lifting, observing, feelings, thinking, and interpreting? Or is it C, learning, observing, feelings, thinking, and interpreting? Is it D, listening, observing, fasting, thinking, and interpreting? Or is it E, listening, observing, feelings, thinkings, and interpreting? And the answer is E, listening, observing, feeling, thinking, and interpreting. Question number 3. What percentage of cervical cancers are squamous cell in origin? Is it A, 15%, B, 20%, C, 85%, D, 5%, or E, 1%? The answer is 85%. What is defined as maternal underweight BMI? Is it BMI less than 19.5 kilos, B less than 17.5, C less than 18.5, D less than 18, or is it E less than 16.5? And the answer is C less than 18.5 kilos. What is the gestational weight gain advised for obese women? Is it A, 5 to 9 kilos, B, 4 to 11 kilos, C, 3 to 8 kilos, D, 11 to 13 kilos, or is it E, 5 to 7 kilos? And the answer is 5 to 9 kilos. What is the gestational weight gain advised for women who are underweight in the pregnancy? Is it A, 7 to 11 kilos, B, 8 to 11 kilos, C, 10 to 13 kilos, D, 12.5 to 18 kilos, or E, 9 to 11 kilos? The answer is 12.5 to 18 kilos. Chemotherapy for cervical cancer is not recommended beyond what gestation? Is it A, 36 weeks, B, 34 weeks, C, 35 weeks, D, 33 weeks, or E, 28 weeks? And The answer is 35 weeks. What is the minimum period from the last chemotherapy session for breastfeeding? Is it A, 7 days, B, 14 days, C, 16 days, D, 21 days, or E, 28 days? And the answer is 14 days. Number 9, what is the minimum period required between last chemotherapy session and delivery? Is it A, 6 weeks, B, 4 weeks, C, 3 weeks, D, 12 weeks, or E, 10 weeks? And the answer is 3 weeks. What is the gold standard treatment for stage 1B1 and 1B2 cervical cancer? Is it A, radical hysterectomy and salpingectomy with or without bilateral oophorectomy with bilateral pelvic lymphadenectomy? Or is it B, a LETZ procedure? Or is it C, a total abdominal hysterectomy and bilateral salpinge oophorectomy? Is it D, total laparoscopic hysterectomy and bilateral salpinge oophorectomy? Or is it E, bilateral salpinge oophorectomy? And the answer is A, which is radical hysterectomy and salpingectomy with or without bilateral oophorectomy with bilateral pelvic lymphadenectomy. Question number 11. Which trimester is chemotherapy contraindicated in? Is it the first, the second, or the third trimester? And the answer is first trimester. Next question. What is the percentage of women presenting to primary care with postcoital bleeding that will have no pathology? Is it A, 90%, B, 80%, C, 50%, D, 20%, or is it E, 10%? And the answer is 50%. What is the HARK questions used for? Is it A, drug and alcohol screening? Is it B, mental health screening? Is it C, sexual health screening? Is it D, domestic violence? Or is it E, inquiring about intimate partner violence? The answer is E, inquire about intimate partner violence. What is the commonest presenting symptom for women with accessory cavitated uterine malformations, shortened to ACUM? Is it A, light periods? Is it B, amenorrhea? Is it C, severe dysmenorrhea? Is it D, menorrhagia? Or is it E, subfertility? And the answer is severe dysmenorrhea. What percentage of women under the age of 25 are affected by chlamydia? Is it 3%, 70%, 7%, 10%, or 50%? So that's percentage of women under 25 who have had chlamydia. And the answer is 7%. What is the percentage of endometrial abnormalities in postmenopausal women with cervical polyps? Is it A, 20%, B, 90%, C, 55%, D, 50%, or is it E, 40%? And the answer is 55%. What is the risk of dysplasia or malignancy in cervical polyps? Is it A, 4%, B, 0.1 to 6%, C, 0.0 to 1.7%, D, 5%, or is it E, 0.02 to 3%? And the answer is 0.0 to 1.7%. What is the percentage of cervical cancer caused by HPV-16 and HPV-18 viruses? Is it A, 30%, B, 50%, C, 70%, D, 10%, or E, 20%? And the answer is 70%. Number 19. Which HPV subtypes does the vaccine protect against? Is it HPV 6, 11, 16, 18, HPV 14, HPV 20, HPV 56, HPV 70? The answer is A, which is HPV 6, 11, 16, and 18. What is the risk of developing squamous cell carcinoma of the vulva with lichen sclerosis? Is it A, 4 to 6.7%? Is it B, 5%? C, 8%? D, 10%? Or is it 50%? The answer is 4 to 6.7%. Last question. Women who have undergone an antenatal trachelectomy, what is their risk of preterm delivery? Is it A, 20 to 30%, B, 70%, C, 50%, D, 20%, or E, 10%? And the answer is 20 to 30%. Thank you very much if you've made it this far. I really hope that you found these questions very useful. As I said, these questions are for revision of MRCOG Part 2, so I really hope that all those who are revising find this useful, and good luck in preparation for the Part 2. It's a well tough exam, and I've also gone through on my channel as to how to prepare for it and how to pass this exam, um, you know, and just the resources that you can find useful.